I would like to, it's 6 o'clock, I would like to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like everyone to stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Vandy.
I'd like to just ask the board, the administration, the community members that were here last week. It was a tough week for our kids, for our community. We had 2 former students, one quite recent, one in 2021, passed away. That impacted our community, impacted our staff, impacted the student body. We had a former teacher of many years that passed away, had services last week, that impacted our staff. I want to thank Mr. Beal, the high school staff, all of the crisis team, just for the support of our kids. And I'd ask if we could have just a moment of silence for those impacted, the families that will be impacted forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vandy. I'd like to have an approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Barb?
Support.
Andrew? All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Now we will be going to the teaching and learning feature.
We'll turn over to Mrs. Thomas.
We're doing a lot of it. I don't have a specific topic to share with you this evening, but I'm happy to in our next meeting.
All right, we had the PBIS conversation and the results that we were going to discuss. We'll discuss those at the next meeting. So that's our update for tonight.
At this point, then, we'd like to go to the recognition of visitors. Is there any?
Yes, first is Tierney Brecken.
Good evening. My name is Tierney Brechting, and I'm a 7th grader at Baldwin Street Middle School. I'm here to talk to you about Green Team. For those who don't know, Green Team is a group of students who come together and devote their time to protect the earth and preserve its resources. Last year, I decided to start this club at the 5-6 building, and it went very well. We got lots of people engaged, so we decided to bring a club to Baldwin. So far, we have accomplished several things, including getting a paper gator at BMS and bringing in recycling bins for cans and plastic bottles. We have connected with Mrs. McClure and Mr. Crete frequently, and they have been very supportive of our ideas. We met with Miss Mary Darton, the food service director for Jenison and Hudsonville schools. With her help, we made simple changes to the cafeteria in the secondary schools, resulting in reduced food and supply waste. Last fall, we partnered with the HS Green Team and collected political campaign signs to reuse and recycle. We have a number of goals for this spring, including transforming some of those campaign signs into a mural at BMS and increasing recycling options. You might be wondering why I'm telling you this. It's our hope that when you review proposals and make decisions as a board, that you will also consider the environmental impact of those choices. As a thank you for your time here tonight, I brought you each a Hudsonville Green Team pin. Thank you for your consideration.
Next is Aaron DeVito.
Right hand. Just do the right side. Very short, huh?
Yeah, you.
give them when you get home. It's
Yeah.
fine. Greetings, board. I just want to say one of the best things that any government has ever done is making this board and all school boards nonpartisan. There's no little letters next to your names. You aren't beholden to any national organizations, and you aren't responsible for any sort of partisan messaging. The only lens you need to use is right there at the bottom of your agendas in the mission statement about how you can educate, challenge, and inspire all learners. And that's important because you have to be able to look beyond the partisan rhetoric to get down to that lens. So when someone says something partisan, like the word equity is just code for racial discrimination, you need to be able to shift that into a nonpartisan educational lens. The word equity simply means everyone getting what they need to be successful. Some of the best moments in this room, in these meetings, have been when the district flexes its muscle about equity. No offense to Mr. Briggs and the finance team, it brings a smile to my face every time I hear about how under budget things are and how great our audits were. But it absolutely melted my heart when the father of a nonverbal special ed student came up here and talked about how her teachers got her to speak and then played the recording of the first time his daughter ever said, "I love you, Daddy." That, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it again. That was amazing. That is what that student needed to be successful. That's equity. Another time we've had lots of discussion about English as a second language and refugee settlements and what do they need to be successful. That's equity. Same thing with all of our different services, like the after-school tutoring program that was started with COVID dollars that y'all are now working so hard to be able to keep running because we realized that is good. There are children that need that. That is equity. But it's not always just pulling someone up. Sometimes they need a push. For me, in math in high school, I was the classic kid that wasn't challenged and goofed off all the time and got in trouble for it. If we had an AP class, I would have been way more successful. That's what I would have needed. Those AP classes are part of equity because that's what those advanced learners need to be successful. We had a pottery class that basically instantly birthed a national award winner, and that thing was amazing. That's what that student needed. That was equity. The words we use and the lens we view things through matter. Make sure it is the nonpartisan education one you're here for. Thank you.
Emily Brechting.
Good evening, board. My name is Emily Brechting, and I have 3 students at the high school and 1 at the middle school. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but as I watched the video, I heard a lot of chatter about DEI. And I'm here to ask a favor. When you meet and you talk about diversity and equity and inclusion, please don't use the abbreviation. Please use the words so that when you vote for or against, when you question the value of or the merits of, you are being honest with yourself and the community that you serve, that you're questioning the validity of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's my understanding that many of the members on this board are members of faith, and in this community that tends to be a Christian Protestant faith. So I'd like to tell a story that I would like you to put yourself in. In the Gospel of Luke in the 10th chapter, there's a person who comes to Jesus and says, "Hey, who's my community? Who's in my neighbor? Who's my neighbor? Basically, who do I need to care about?" And Jesus answers by telling a story. We're familiar. The Good Samaritan, we even now have laws that are based on it. But I want to tell it again, and I hope that you'll put yourself back in it. What we have is someone from the community who has been disregarded, taken advantage of, and marginalized. We have someone in need alongside that road from Jerusalem to Jericho. And the first person to come along is a religious leader. And as far as I know, I don't think we technically have any religious leaders on this board anymore. But that first person makes the choice to appraise the situation, to see the person in need, to take in the vulnerable member of their community. And they cross the road. And they pass by. Second person in our story is not a religious leader, but we have a person from the community who is known for their faith, right? We started with the priest and now we have the Levite. And they too see someone from their community who is vulnerable and in need and decide to cross the road and pass by. I'm not going to finish with the Good Samaritan, but I'm going to ask you this. As members of this board who profess your faith, would you please not cross the road and pass by the vulnerable students in our community that need you, each and every one of you, to make decisions in their best interest? Thank you.
Jill Bosniak.
Good evening. Some of you may have already read about this concept from social media or heard it from Emily here. And for some of you, this may be something new based on who you follow on the different social media platforms. My goal is to be proactive and educate the board on a topic that I'm sure will come up for discussion at some point this year. So in continuing my January 27th public comment about diversity, equity, inclusion, which as a reminder stemmed from the 1965 Civil Rights Act, I asked the board to use the full title in discussions going forward. When you stop making it an acronym and are just using the letters DEI, it transforms the framework into a thought-turning cliche. It is what it is, or it's not a big deal. From now on, be proud of your opinions, but be specific. Let everyone know, excuse me, if it's diversity you don't like, or if it's equity, or if it's being inclusive. Diversity is a practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds. Equity is the practice of ensuring that everyone has access to the resources and opportunities they need to succeed. Inclusion is the practice of creating an environment that values and celebrates people's differences. Going forward, if you're going to publicly oppose diversity, equity, and inclusion at Hudsonville Public Schools, I ask that you be explicit about what you don't agree with. Let everyone know if it's diversity you don't like, the wanting to exclude the 169 students who qualify for multiple lingual services at Hudsonville. Or if it's equity, which according to the Michigan school data for the 23-24 school year was 1,554 students, or 23.07% of the population. Or also for equity, the 1,067 students that are eligible for free meal benefits, or the 163 students who are eligible for reduced meal prices. For inclusive, the wanting to eliminate the feeling of belonging for the 849 students, or 12.6% of the population, who are reported as students with disabilities. I hope that by hearing the number of students that would be affected by changes or the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Hudsonville Public Schools really puts us in a perspective for you. These are actual students that you would be intentionally harming, instead of trying to make their lives better. At the January work session, Mr. Chansky stated, quote, "I am not going to approve things that are coming through groups that are basically harming instead of helping." Thank you for that comment. To oppose diversity, equity, and inclusion is to acknowledge that there's an unfair advantage and that it's working in your favor, so you're okay with that. If this topic comes up at a future meeting, be transparent about who you are harming versus helping in eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion. Don't the taxpayers and community members deserve to know if you oppose celebrating different backgrounds, equal access to resources, or an equal environment that celebrates people's differences? Thank you for your time and consideration.
We're done? Okay, thank you. Thank you for those who participated today. At this point, we're going to the consent agenda. And we have a proposal for the consent agenda items. Do we have a motion to approve?
Do that. Support.
Nick and Dawn seconded. Do we have any discussion? Okay, then we will vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, next we're going to go to our regular action agenda. And the first one is the Board of Education Code of Conduct. And I made a copy of that for everybody, and everybody's got a copy, the board members have a copy in front of them. It's also on the wall over there. But what I'd like to do is, I'd like to start with Joy and go down the road here. And I'd like each board member to read 2 of the Code of Conduct items, and then at the end we will have a discussion. And before we start reading the individual items, I will just read the header. The Hudsonville Board of Education members are deeply committed and passionate about the quality of education in Hudsonville Public Schools. Serving the students, families, and communities of Hudsonville, the Board of Education recognizes the importance of embracing, adhering, and committing to a method of behavior, operations, and functioning as a board. The following statements will define how each board member will govern. And then if you could read the first 2, Joy.
I will fairly and equally represent all students under the care of Hudsonville Public Schools, recognizing the #1 concern is the educational welfare of all students. I will conduct business of the board openly and honestly and avoid any conflict of interest.
I understand and recognize that I alone have no legal authority, but rather our authority, which includes actions and decisions as a board, is by majority vote. I will ensure the decisions of the board are supported and enacted, even if I do not personally agree or possibly voted for the ultimate outcome.
I understand my role as a board member centers around hiring and evaluating the superintendent of schools and developing school board of education policy. I will conduct my discussions and conversations in a respectful, productive, and cooperative manner. I will listen to understand other perspectives.
I will prepare for and attend all possible meetings. I will be committed to the growth and development of my skills as a board member by attending local, state, and national learning sessions when practical.
I will respect and adhere to all legal constraints of Michigan and federal laws. This includes protecting the confidentiality and privacy of students and employees. I will recognize the integrity and positive contributions of past board members and consider prior work before enacting new policies and regulations.
I'll provide support for the superintendent and employees of the school district and ensure they are able to perform their responsibilities in a professional manner. If concerns arise, I will direct concerns to the superintendent. I will promote the development of policies that ensure effective management of the district.
I will render all decisions based on available facts and my independent judgment and avoid undue or prejudicial influence of outside groups. I will refrain from posting personal opinions on board-related topics and issues. I will not post non-publicly available district-related information without the knowledge of the superintendent.
Thank you, Ken. And then it says there on an annual basis at the January, we're doing it February at this time, organizational board meeting, each member will be reminded of the agreed upon values and responsibilities and will sign the pledge. Last year we spent quite a bit of time on this. I think several meetings we went over it. At this point, I would like to have the Board of Education conduct before us. Do we have a motion to approve this Code of Conduct once again?
So moved.
Dawn?
Support.
Andrew? All in favor? Oh, excuse me, do we have any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And folks, what I would ask is that, before you leave this evening, get with Robin. She's gonna have one for all of us to sign so that we can get this taken care of. And I appreciate all of the work that went into it last year. And I think that we're doing well in adhering to that, and if we don't, then we can call each other out on those types of issues also. Okay, at this point, we are going to the bus purchase recommendation, and I believe, Pat, you're gonna be speaking with us about that?
Thanks.
Great.
Thank you, President Chansky. So at the January work session, we reviewed, in detail, a recommendation to purchase 2 buses, one 53 passenger, one 47 passenger. They both have wheelchair lifts, they both have air conditioning. Total cost of $305,777. We also reviewed, replacement schedule, the composition of fleet and various things. Nothing's changed from that review in the January session, and the recommendation, it's the same recommendation we discussed back at that time, so. If there's any questions or?
That's the recommendation.
Okay. We have the bus purchase recommendation as presented by Patrick Briggs. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Barb, second? Nick, do we have any discussion on this? Questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, then next we will be going to the storage unit at the high school, and we had a bid recommendation there that we discussed at our work session, and Mr. Briggs will also bring us up to date on that.
Yeah, again, thanks. We had a great discussion at the January work session over a needed storage facility shed building. It's a storage building on the high school campus. Bid categories were reviewed. The total of the 5 categories for recommended to award contracts is $350,140. Just like to say that we had really, really good bid participation, and we beat our pre-construction budget significantly, so.
That's the recommendation.
Okay, we have the storage unit bid recommendation presented by Patrick Briggs. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Dawn, second?
Support.
Andrew, do we have any discussion on this item?
I thought you'd bring like pictures so we knew exactly where that building was gonna go. Because I'm still not.
You know where it's going.
There's a pond,
It's in the
right?
woods. It's behind the pond.
Deep in the woods.
Deep in the woods.
Do we have any further discussion? Okay, I'd like to, all in favor of this? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we come to the high school spring testing schedule, and I'm gonna ask Amy if she would present that to us.
Yeah, so we had the opportunity at our January work session to hear from Mr. Szymanski and myself with regard to some of the whys behind the schedule for adjusted days. In particular, we do need recommendation, or would like you to approve the recommendation for a virtual day in particular. That affords the opportunity for us to really provide small group testing with seminar teachers and really spread students out. So always thinking about those variables that we can control within a testing setting to set students up for the best success. And certainly appreciate Mr. Szymanski's work on this, and Mr. Beal as well, as we consider how to set up that best testing environment. So recommendation this evening for approval of the schedule that you reviewed at the January work session, in particular the virtual learning day.
I'd just like to make one reminder that this is very similar to last year's schedule. However, one of the testing days is during spring break this year and next year, and that causes a little bit of a challenge. So that's why it looks like that's what I think.
Okay, we have the proposed high school spring testing schedule as presented by Amy Taylor. Do we have a motion to approve?
So.
Support.
Ken, second?
Support.
Barb, do we have any discussion on this item? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Next we go to the Earned Sick Leave, Sick Time Act, ESTA policy, and this is gonna be presented by Dr. Vanderjagt.
So real quick, the ESTA policy talks about the earned sick time. This is Armstrong's been working very hard and following this process for this. However, as late as today, there could be some changes to the timing of this. It has to go into effect February 21. The governor's pushing hard for this to be delayed till July 1, which could happen. The policy still follows a practice, so we're gonna ask the board to still approve the policy. Any changes to the act would just impact the policy, but having a policy in place is a priority at this point, so that we're ready to go. Should something happen come February 21, which we won't know until probably February 20 point something, because it could happen in the middle of the night. So we will ask the board to approve this policy, knowing full well that there might be some adjustments. We'll also remind the board, this is a policy that is created through TRUNS. So as we talk about discussions of transitioning to TRUN policies, this is a policy that would fall in line with the future, not in the past, if that makes sense to that conversation. So that's a recommendation for the team.
Excellent. We have a proposed ESTA policy as presented by Dr. Vanderjack. Do we have a motion to approve?
So
Support.
Andrew and Dawn? Do we have any discussion on this?
Are they just looking at a timing delay, or are they looking at content changes?
Both. The content changes are driving the delay. Without having they're not agreeing on the particulars of it. So there's part of the delay, which will allow for maybe some more negotiations for the budget process, which will impact this also. It's 100% political. That makes sense.
This is a separate policy from the minimum wage and.
That's right.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is approved. Next, we come to the policy, the board policy revisions, and Dr. Vanderjack is going to bring those to us.
Sure, these are all the policies that we discussed at the work session. It's the second reading of these policies. We did discuss them a while ago, technically last year, but then we brought them to the work session, or the board meeting for first approval. I've had no recommendations for any adjustments to these policies. Most of them are required to be done. Again, getting them done is important, but also knowing there's probably gonna be a big transition over the next several months. So that is a recommendation to approve these policies as presented.
We have the suggested revisions to the policies presented by Dr. Vanderjack. Do we have a motion to approve as a first and final reading?
So moved.
Dawn?
I'll support.
Supported by Nick. Do we have any discussion? If there's no discussion, we will then vote. All in favor of this, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now we come to the 2025-2026 calendar, and we get to hear from a new voice, Ann Armstrong. Could you please represent?
Yes, this is the calendar presented in closed session last time at the work session. I just want to really thank Kathy Teal and Mike Anderson for their great work on it as well. This is a group project between the HEA and us. Obviously, the board has the right to choose the first day that I think within the recommendation of the calendar that is proposed. It's very similar to this year. So not any major changes whatsoever, but just want to thank the HEA for their work on this too.
Okay, so we have the proposed 2025-2026 school year calendar as presented by Ann Armstrong, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ken, do we have a second?
I'll support that.
Nick, do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
So we'll get the calendar out to our administrative and our staff tomorrow, and then we'll be sure to include it in future newsletters so parents are aware and get our website updated with the start of school and all, like when spring break is, midwinter break. It's the midwinter break. We'll follow the Lions Super Bowl next year.
Oh.
I didn't jinx it. You did it on our own.
So we have come to the end of the regular action agenda. And I want you to know that I spent a couple hours, 3 hours putting together all the stuff I had to say so I wouldn't screw it up like last time. And then Dr. Vanderjack called me this afternoon and said, hey Greg, I've got something that's fair. So anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now we will turn it over to Dr. Vanderjack to report.
Perfect, we'll start with our student council report, which we haven't seen you this year yet.
I know, it's exciting. I don't have too much for you today. First off, kind of fun event is we're hosting a winter dance tomorrow at the high school, for all high school students. We planned it so it's after home basketball games, so students can walk right over. It's pretty casual, you can wear whatever, you can dress up, or you can just come in your basketball attire. It'll just be from 9 to 11 at the freshman commons, so it'll be fun. It'll be a fun night. Other exciting news is we nominated our next exec board for student council for next year. President on down, though I love Piero so much I might just come back, you never know. We're hosting a blood drive in March, which should be fun. It's a great opportunity to get back to our community because all those donations go back to local hospitals. And finally, we had a counselor appreciation week last week. We gotta send them with gifts and a few pick-me-ups throughout the week just because of scheduling for next year and all the help that they give in seniors like myself for figuring out future plans. That's all I have for today.
Have we ever had a president who aspired to come back for a second year?
I don't know of anyone, but.
Okay. Probably a smart move to move on. Thank you very much.
Next we have updates from some buildings. We'll start with Mrs. Howard.
Just make sure it's on. Hi, board. Thanks for listening to our updates today. So Allward has been very busy. We've had a lot going on. Just this past week, we finished up our data meetings. So that's where we sit down, we meet with each grade level team for about half a day. And we go through all of the classroom data, we look at STAR data, which is our building and district-wide data, and we set up an intervention block for ELA following for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And that was all fun is maybe not the right word, but it was incredibly meaningful for us to sit down and look at who are the students that are above grade level and how can we continue to challenge them, who are the students that are at grade level and what can we do to meet their needs, and then the students that would be in specific intervention groups, what skill might they need specific, like our control follows or syllabic words. So we do all that, and then interventions started this week, so it's been fun getting with the new groups and tracking their progress already starting this week. We also, this is the first time we've done it this year. Can you guys believe there's been 101 days of school so far? On Wednesday was the 101st day of school. And so first grade celebrated by doing everything themed 101, including 101 Dalmatians. So all of our first graders dressed up like Dalmatian puppies. And I dressed up, I never miss an opportunity to dress up. Dressed up like Cruella de Vil and just terrified students all throughout the hallway, which was a lot of fun. Their teachers told them, if you see Cruella, bark loudly to alert the alarm. And so ever I walked, all these puppies were running around. I did feel poorly. One kid was having a tough time, so I'm just used to getting down, putting my hand on the shoulder. He looked back at me, didn't realize. I kind of forgot I was dressed up. He looked back and just screamed, just terrified, because I was wearing a lot of makeup. So we have a lot of fun at Allward, including today we had a big assembly this morning. So we hosted Charles Opio, who is he's from Uganda, Africa, and he came to our school to speak about just how to be a light to one another. Some highlights we're talking about smiling and laughter and using encouraging words with one another. And it was just a really neat thing. He had all our students, all 436 students, up and dancing and cheering each other on and using different words and speaking in different languages. And it just was a really fun community event that we had with our students and getting ready for our friendship parties for Valentine's Day that we're having tomorrow. So we've just been busy, busy, busy.
I'm excited to be able to share. We've had a similar theme, busyness, in the last couple of months. We, at Early Childhood, we spend a lot of time in December and January preparing for enrollment night. And what that looks like is all of our staff in their classrooms really celebrating the things that they do, and they work real hard constantly, and then they really get to showcase themselves and their spaces. We were able to show off some of our construction spaces and got a lot of excited kids around that, and honestly heard from a few parents that they would like to have us rent the space out, which was pretty funny. So excited about that. Honestly, we had a wonderful turnout. We saw a 10% increase with our current families enrollment this year. we saw a 50% increase in our new families' interest on the first day. And when I say that, really our new families tend to trickle in. And this year we just saw a really large population that is signed up early and really wants to be in Hudsonville, and making sure that that is something that they can have. Honestly, we're really excited to see how it all pans out. There's always a few weeks of laying the groundwork of where all those students are gonna go, and then we communicate that out. But we're really excited about that. It's honestly our staff's hard work every day, making a beautiful and amazing program for our kids and celebrating them over and over and being able to impact families. And your support and all of our administrators' support in early childhood. We work really, really hard to make sure that our kids are ready for pre-KK, and it's really exciting work to see. We also have a big event coming up. We've done it over the last couple of years, I would say. We host a family event for our families and students. It's on March 20 at 6 o'clock. It will be held in our new M&M and cafeteria space. It's books and bingo. The goal of the night is for families to sit and play bingo with their kiddos, and all the challenges that come from big numbers and finding their cards and not playing with their tokens. But in addition, as they win, and we want them to win many, many times, they get to choose a book from overflowing tables of donations. We work with a number of different places, Chapel Point, Myers, Hillcrest Church. We're just really looking for all of those book options. Families pick what they would like when they walk up, and we want them to win over and over and over. When they walk out with a handful of books, that's a really big, successful night. This past year, we had about 150 kids come with their families. So as you can imagine, those spaces get really full, but it's really, really fun. So I think that's all I've got. There you go.
Becky, could I ask you a question? You said you had a whole lot of people showed up the first day.
Oh, yeah.
Is that evened out, or is that,
Yeah, so the way that we run the enrollment, the current families that are a part of the program have early enrollment, which really allows us to make sure that the families that we are already serving, we take good care of them and we make sure that they have a spot. Then we look at an online enrollment process, so on Wednesday at noon, and it's getting to the point of upward basketball now. But Wednesday at noon, we encourage families to sign up as soon as they can. And then what we saw at noon really to 1 o'clock is about 50% more than we had last year. So what that really speaks to us is families are planning ahead. They're excited about Hudsonville. They want to be on those lists and in those classrooms. And really we were excited to see that honestly they're picking things that we're running and we're organizing a little bit in regards to that. I'm excited at Tricia Madej, the Associate Director, Early Childhood Director, Assistant, and myself are going to share at the board work session this next time. And so we'll share more details about where 4-year-old preschool is going as well.
great?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Numbers, it'll be August and September.
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, just the past couple of weeks, we have kicked off our scheduling season for next fall. And we did that with our music showcase with our 6th graders, and they did a tremendous job. It's one of our favorite days of the school year with all the kids. They get to perform our band, choir, and orchestra, really get our 5th grade students excited about taking a music class. And then this week, due to the snow days, we had to push our meetings back a few weeks. But we got to get into those 5th grade classrooms and talk specifically about electives, and they are very excited about. There's a lot of kids actually want to take 2 music classes, which are more than maybe we've had in the past. So our music team is just phenomenal at how they really get kids excited about music. And then I want to do a couple of shout outs. We had a couple of teachers that created some new classes for electives for our students, and one is iPad art. And so we have a lot of students very excited about taking the new classes. So Angie Ernstez and Jessica Seitz, they worked on those proposals, and thank you to Amy Taylor for all of her work and board for just approving those courses for our kids. They're very excited about them. And then great job, Tierney, because we finally got our paper gator at the 5-6 building. And so our links have been working with our students that are in our special needs classrooms and they are helping run our recycling, and they think it is the coolest day ever on Fridays when their buddies come to get them and go and do all the recycling. They just think they have this like big job and they're helping out our school. And so that leads us into, we are gonna have a unified basketball team this year. And our first game is in 2 weeks, and our first game is away, and then our first home game is on Friday, February 28th. So we're very excited. Last year, thank you to Baldwin, they let us join their team. And this year we are gonna host 2 home games. So really excited about that, and we're tying it in with March's Reading Month, and then March's Disability Awareness Month too. So we'll have lots of challenges for our kids. We're gonna have guest speakers come in, so we're just really excited about the month of March coming up and all that we're doing for all of our kids.
Mr. Beal. Thank you. All right, good evening, board. Thank you. I'd like to quickly piggyback off something Dr. Vanderjack and Paxton brought up about last week, it being National School Counselors Week and being a very challenging week. They were the ones that were kind of the front lines of helping students that were grieving. Getting the news on Monday, really within a matter of hours, that we had lost 2 students was pretty overwhelming, especially the one that graduated last year. That affected our student body a lot more, having known him more than the one that graduated in 2021. So unfortunately, we have to have a plan when these kind of things happen. And so I really want to thank Mrs. Thomas too, because she comes over and helps lead the crisis team, because we're all kind of reeling too. It's very emotional for all of us as administrators. And so thank you for that. And it's difficult, but it's meaningful to have people that you can rely on and trust to help students and staff that are grieving. And it was a difficult week, but one that I was grateful to have such an awesome team. So our counselors really do deserve a lot of praise. It being this time of year for them and what they had to deal with and be in the front lines for our help. That being said, right now at the high school, there's about 2 weeks until exams again. We're almost at the end of second trimester, and with this time of year also brings getting ready for scheduling for next year, just like at the 5-6 building. So we had 8th grade parent night last week, Wednesday evening, and it's been something that I feel like gets better every year. So credit to Mrs. Bush, who's the assistant principal kind of in charge of the event, but we all kind of pitch in differently, but she organizes all of our clubs. So if you could picture the concourse area outside of the main auditorium, sort of on the North Campus side, all of the clubs and extracurricular activities each have kind of a table and a booth set up. Really, it stretches all the way down from the entry all the way down past the library. And we kind of switch and have Riley students and their parents in the auditorium while Baldwin are out, and then vice versa. And it's a time not only to have 8th graders get ready to schedule their high school courses, kind of understand their transcript, and that every course counts now for half a credit towards getting their diploma. And it's not just about academics though. We really hit home and push and stress that high school can be whatever you want to put into it. And not everybody gets to be a starter on the varsity team. And even though a lot of people feel like we're sports centric, that's not what the evening's about, and that's not what I want to stress to our students and our parents. And sports are great, and we have a ton of student athletes, but there are so many other opportunities to get involved. And so I really challenge and push the students and their parents to visit tables of things that they might have never heard of, including Green Team. So I want to give a shout out to Tierney. It's great to know that you're kind of in the footsteps of your brothers. No pressure, you're your own person too. But I'm so proud that you're getting that started, because that's a very popular and robust club at the high school, along with so many others. So that's a fun night, but it's also really important to get 8th grade incoming freshman students ready to know that high school can be a time where they get to meet new friends and kind of expand their horizons and really challenge to learn and become the people that they're going to be and the adults they're going to be. One of my favorite things of being at the high school is seeing freshmen come in and remembering what they look like as freshmen, and then all the way the growth that they have, not just physically, but intellectually and just growing as people. It's really, really the most fun part of my job. So that was a great night to get them started. On a personal note, I had another 8th grader, so I've got one more coming up. I'll have 2 in the high school next year, so that was fun to have her and her friends and some of the parents that I know a little bit better there, but it's a great night. So we had that fun and energetic night kind of right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of a pretty tough week. But other than that, winter sports are getting toward their sort of postseason play here pretty soon. Musical rehearsal is going to be Shrek the Musical, so get ready for that. That's going strong right now, getting ready for that performance, but busy time at the high school as well. So thanks for letting me give you an update.
Any questions for our administrator? Just a quick update from my standpoint. We had our winter, I guess it'd be a spring count day, was yesterday. And it's a challenging time. There's a lot of illness going around, so trying to keep an eye on the kids and when are they coming back and who's sick. So we continue to monitor those numbers as they're coming in. That represents really 10% of our finance, how it works. It's a 90%, 10% in the fall count and the spring count. So we'll keep an eye on those numbers as they're coming in. They continue to fluctuate all over, but that happens in a district this size. And I will reiterate this, that we do not anticipate any more snow days the rest of the year. So sleep, get up early.
Why did you
get up early? I'm sleeping in, and we'll be all set. And so that's it. Kind of a nice week. Kind of a little bit of a shorter week after actually the week we had last week without having students or staff Monday and Tuesday, kind of the middle of the week today, but Monday or Friday. And it's a great way to start off the week on Tuesday night with our boys basketball team knocking off Rockford. Is always a great night. So anyway, that's my update.
That's good.
Well, thank you, Dr. Vanderjack. At this point, we're going to be going around and Joy, I'm going to start with you. Do you have any remarks you'd like to make?
No, just that I feel like I've been busy since our last meeting. Even I went to Forest Grove for appreciation of the board, board members, and it was so fun to see kids that I was an aide there when the 5th graders were younger, and they recognized me and they gave me cards asking if I could please extend recess. So I had to explain like what my powers are and very much are not. And so that was really neat. I took the entry-level board member course online, super helpful, and I got to be a shark at Riley Street. So I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, no, I wanted to thank Mr. Bear for letting me come into your buildings on a fairly regular basis, and Shark Tank is always fun. I wish I could actually steal some of those ideas each year, but I got to retire from the school board at that point. But and then I want to thank Mr. Beal too, just your leadership last week. Doug, yours as well. It was a rough week, I know. And like you've said, we've got great staff, and we never want to go through those situations, but it's when the best of Hudsonville comes out, how we rally around people, not just internal, but Emily, if I'm not mistaken, maybe you were helping out a little bit too as well. So it's not just our internal team, but we have community members with skills and resources that are greatly appreciated. And so I just want to thank you guys for that.
In addition to everything Nick said, I also want to remember the staff member that passed away a week and a half ago, and unfortunately I had a fight with the bathroom floor that night and was not able to go to visitation. But wow, he was one of the good ones. My kids had him. Dwight had a great relationship working with him. When we saw him over the last couple of years, never a negative word, never complained about the health issues he was having. And boy, if you want to talk about someone who represents the best of Hudsonville and the administration and people who care, shout out to my friend Kurt McDowell. We will really miss you.
Thank you, Barb.
I just echo what Nick said about last week, and Haley, I know you did a lot too, and really Hudsonville shined. So thank you, and I loved hearing about the books and bingo. Great participation, what a great idea.
So echoing what a lot of you have already said, last week was a tough week for a lot of us. I was in North Carolina Monday and Tuesday to be with a colleague who just lost someone. And I got a phone call while I was there with that news. And just like all of us in this room, that's a hard thing. For me, it was tough because I'm an 8-year-old, 10-year-old who had a relationship with one of those boys, and to explain that to young kids it's just hard, right? He was a summer science student, got to know him well, and I just want to thank Dr. Vanderjack and Mr. Beal, as comments for everything you've done. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to love our kids, right? Isn't that what we all want to do? Isn't that why we're all here? So it was tough. We'll get through it. I feel for the people that were closer to those students and to Mr. McDowell than I was. But I do believe that we've got great people. We're surrounded by amazing people in this room and in our schools. Also got to spend some time in some buildings. Is Mr. Wally here? I don't see Mr. Wally, but I spent some time.
Recognized tonight. I said that's a priority.
Awesome. So I spent a lot of time in Georgetown reading to some classes as part of Board Appreciation Week. Incredible. Those kids just put a smile on my face, and it reminds me of why what we do is important. I got to go to Baldwin and Riley for Shark Tank. That was awesome. There was some pizza at Riley after the event, and my wife's love language is pizza. And she helps, as some of you know, she helps out at both Jamestown Upper and Lower. And so I had I can't take all the credit for this, but somebody gave me the idea to run a slice of pizza over there. And so I did, and I saw her in the parking lot, and I'm like, hey, I got something for you. And I showed her the pizza, and she's like, I gotta get to work. And I'm like, but I have pizza. So Jeremy, you run a tight ship over there. So anyway, so great opportunities to be involved with students, and thank you all for making us a part of that. It's really important. Summer Science, we had our parent meeting a few weeks ago. Thank you, Mr. Beal, for being there and everything that you had to present and talk about with parents. I spent a lot of time over the last couple weeks reviewing applications, and we have interviews with students next week already. So gearing up for that. So that's all. Thank you, everybody, for all you do. Appreciate you.
We've talked a lot about the green team, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Dr. Manager. Maybe we could have a work session or a less teaching and learning feature on the green team. Get a little more in depth, because we've talked about it. We hear what's going on in schools, but it's a growing thing, and maybe we could do something a little bit more in depth. Consider that going forward. Shark Tank, always great to get into schools. Myself and Ms. Taylor and Ms. Fast were over at Baldwin together, and we had a young lady came up, and she was so anxious and so nervous to the point of tears. But the compassion that was shown by, I forget who was with her, but the adult that was helping her, and the coaching from Amy, the compassionate coaching from Ms. Taylor and from Ms. Fast. She did it. She made the presentation, and she was so proud of herself. It was really challenging for her. And that is, I mean, great ideas, and it's always fun and so forth, but that's the thing that really moved me the most, is to see a student reach that next level. So thanks again for the principals for inviting us in. And everybody said it, but it was a couple of challenging weeks, and so thankful to work in a district that has such compassionate leadership, compassionate team members, that we don't, as you said, Mr. Beal, we don't like to have to maneuver through these things, but we do. And as somebody said, Hudsonville shines. It's the best of who we are in a very, very difficult situation. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you, Ken. And I want to just thank you to Ryan and Matt. You did a magnificent job in your classroom, buildings there with the Shark Tank. Also want to bring something up that was in our board briefs. Brent Sandy was recently honored as the coach of the West Michigan Officials Association Coach of the Year. And that's not only for what he does on the field, but that's what he did off the field also. And I remember, I was talking to him last week, and I said, I remember your first practice in July, and all the kids were there. And there were 2 or 3 young coaches there, looked like the kids, you know? And I you know, we all know he does a great job with our students, but he does an equally fine job getting our young teachers ready to move into positions of leadership and those types of things. And that is a very, very valuable thing for all of you who are working with the younger folks in our employment. And so I just wanna, and I also, Jacob, one of your science teachers, young man, just, I think this is his first year?
Math teacher, yeah.
Yeah, and so, anyway, I had a good discussion with him when I was there last week. So let's just remember those youngsters among us who are gonna be the next generation of leaders, and to work with them and to do everything we can. And I appreciate all that all of you do for everybody in this district. At this point, I want to remind the board before you leave to sign the code of ethics, and then we are going to have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Okay, so we have Dawn and Nick. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.